Good morning. This is VirtualPBX-admin training. Going to give people a couple minutes here to get started, or before I get started. Also a sound check here. And so, the training lasts roughly an hour and a half. There's some variance there just based on some load times for the pages. Hopefully I get everything right in terms of the order. I have had issues sometimes where I jump around. But here we have our dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. You can get here a couple different ways. Obviously, you can just enter the URL as I just read it off, but you can also get there from the VirtualPBX website. All right, so if you go to virtualpbx.com, you'll see a blue bar towards the top of the page. There'll be a link there to log in. Also, if you go on the support pages on the virtualpbx.com site, there'll be a dash login link on that page as well. But they'll both get you here. And I do recommend bookmarking this page so you can get here easily in the future. All right, to get logged in, we need your username, which is your email address. Right, every user will have a unique email address to log in with. Right, you can't repeat an email address for multiple users. We need your password, which hopefully was emailed to you. And then lastly, we need your account name, right? So your company name, typically. Now, for some reason, you don't have your password or you forgot. Over here, towards the bottom right, just above the sign-in bar, right, we have the Forgot Your Info link. You can click on that. We still need your email address, right? And then we need either the account name or a phone number on the account, one of your customer-facing phone numbers, one of those two pieces of information. You click on Reset Password. The system will send you an email saying, hey, you have a request to change your password. That email will include a link so you can then change your password. Shortly after you change your password, the system will actually log you out automatically. That's just to make you log in with the new password, but also gives you a chance to use the Remember Me. So then we'll go ahead and get signed in. And so I'm using a test account that I have logged into several times. So by default, I'm sent right here to my dashboard page. For anyone who's logging in for the very first time, the system actually takes you to your account page, which you can get to by clicking on your name up at the top of the page. And right, this is like where you would change your own password as an admin. The main thing is over here on the settings side, you can click on account and you could change your company time zone, right? So you're in the proper time zone. Now, just a fair warning that first time you log in here, Dash Wizard pops up. So you got little pop-ups telling you what things are. Now, on your accounts, you'll have a section under user for billing information. So things like your service plan, you can see previous invoices, you can change your credit card, you can update who the billing contact is. And that's the person who's getting the invoices and who has ultimate authority over the account. When you're done on these pages, just click on Close over towards the top right, and then you'll be on a dashboard page. So up here at the top, right, you have your name, your company name. Click on that. That gets you to those account pages we were just looking at. For many of you, when you first log in, you'll have a D&D toggle here to the right of your name. Right, D&D standing for Do Not Disturb. Right, you can click on it. It means you're not getting calls. All right, click on it again, then you will be receiving calls. The reason I don't have it here for my user is because my user is part of an Acd queue. So once a user is assigned to an Acd queue, they no longer have the D&D toggle. Then we got the help icon here, right? A little question mark. Chat with us. That opens up a chat window typically on the bottom right of your browser, and you will then be chatting with a support staff member. you have Learn More. This opens up a new tab and takes you to the support pages directly. So then you can look at various guides for the features, as well as like for adding VoIP phones, etc. Online store, this will open up a new tab. It takes you to store.virtualpbx.com. So you can buy like a VoIP phone or a router, etc. The web phone link doesn't always show up. And that is basically, it's based on if you have a web phone assigned to your user. Once you do, it does show up here. It will open up a new tab taking you to webphone.virtualpbx.net. This allows you to use Chrome or Firefox on a computer to make and receive calls over your internet connection. All right, then we got the menu icon or the hamburger icon, right? The 3 horizontal lines. This takes you to other parts of Dash, right? We'll mostly be in the dashboard for the majority of the training, but we'll get to these other topics. Some of them will have fees associated with them or are part of, are available on some plans but not others, and I'll try to highlight that. And then we have the logout icon. So here in the center, we have my total users, right? These are the people on my account who can make and receive calls. Currently have 19. Most of our plans are user-based, so adding users will increase your bill, removing users will decrease your bill. Total devices, 33. That means I have 33 different devices associated on my account. They're not necessarily assigned to my users, although most of them probably are. And then we have a breakdown. So first up, we have soft phone. Now, Dash was designed with VoIP in mind from the ground up, and VoIP standing for Voice over Internet Protocol. So using the internet to make and receive calls. That's all VoIP really is. Soft phone, software application that acts like a phone. So it's still going to use your internet connection, right? Initially, soft phones were only on computers, right? Probably Ethernet connected, making and receiving calls. Nowadays, since smartphones are as powerful as computers from 10 years ago or whatever, you can actually use a soft phone app on your cell phone or on a tablet, etc. Now the soft phone bucket here, that includes the VirtualPBX soft phone, as well as any third-party soft phones you might have on the account. All right, then we got the web phone. All right, so Chrome or Firefox, technically a kind of soft phone. It was developed later, and we don't actually charge for the web phone, at least to my knowledge. Cell phone, right? Most of us know what a cell phone is and are familiar with it. And then SIP phone. This is a physical VoIP phone, right? So SIP is VoIP, right? The general term for a phone that uses internet connection. SIP is a subtype, right? So it has a particular protocol that it uses to make use of the calls. Now, and this is like a Yealink phone or Cisco phone, Polycom, etc. Sits on a desk. There are other kinds of VoIP phones on the market. So when you're shopping, you want to make sure it's SIP compliant or SIP compatible. So that way you at least have a chance of it working on our system. Down here, I have unregistered devices. It's saying that 3 of my SIP phones are unregistered, meaning I can't send calls to them, right? Now that they're not plugged in. It could be someone is changing their internet service provider, and so they're offline completely, right? They have no internet connection whatsoever. Could be something else, right? Network setting of some type. Down here, I have total numbers, 25, right? That's total phone numbers on my account. Now, these are customer-facing phone numbers, right? So this is what people dial to get to us, to my company, right? These can be your main numbers, right? So people can expect to get a hold of someone or leave a voicemail, right? Could be it would include my conference number, like in my conference room, my fax box number, etc. This is broken down, has 2 breakdowns. So first up, we have assigned numbers and spare numbers. All right, assigned number means you're using it. All right, people can dial it and should be able to get through to somebody or somehow, right? Send a fax, what have you. Spare number, right, counts towards your allotment on your monthly plan price, but you're not currently using it. So for instance, you were just running a President's Day promotion, right? That's now passed. So you can then take that number and put it in spare. So now you're not getting calls about a promotion that's no longer running. So then we got USDID and US toll-free, right? US toll-free is actually US Canada toll-free, right? That's an 800 number, 888 all the way down to 833. USDID, that just means a US local number, right? So if you wanted a number in Houston, Texas, it would count as a DID. Likewise, if you wanted a number, say in San Jose, California, again, USDID. You can have international numbers on your account. If you're interested in adding them, you'd want to email our porting team. That's PORTING at virtualpbx.com. They need to know the city and country that you want a phone number in. Some countries have requirements, right? It's going to vary from country to country. Some don't care, and we can get a number for you right away. Others want proof of presence or proof of incorporation or photo ID, some combination. All right, next up, we have conference bridges. This just simply means I've enabled conferencing on 2 of my users, because right? Got the 2 over here to the right. I can have conferencing on all my users if I want to. It just means they can host or moderate a conference. We're going to go up here to the top right where it says main number. Right, these 4 phone numbers all behave in the same fashion. So they're all going to the same initial location. They're all going to have the same main greeting, for example. Then I have my conference number. You can have multiple conference room numbers if you want. They're all going to the same place initially, right? But this phone number is what everyone would dial to get to the conference rooms, and then they would be prompted to enter a conference room number and then a PIN number. The main fax box number, the 3rd box down here, right? This is your phone number that people will fax to. And you can only have the one main fax box number. The company directory, this downloads a CSV file. It has, people's names, their extension numbers, as well as their devices, at least their primary device. The cell phone directory, this is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop cell phone application. Right? You download the file, upload it to the VirtualPBX Iphone App on your Windows or Mac PC, and then that will allow you to see the status of the other cell phone users on your account. Right? So I could see if, my coworker Mike is currently on a call on his cell phone. So then I know not to call him, right? Because he's busy. Whereas coworker Josh is not on a call. So I'm like, hey, Josh, I can call him real quick. We can talk about whatever issue that we have to talk about and move on with my day. Now, there is a limitation here, is that it only reflects the other soft phones in use, right? So if you have users with SIP phones, right? So they have a Yealink phone or a Polycom phone, you're not going to be able to see that status on your soft phone app, right? Because you can only see the other status of other soft phones. All right, store discount code. Just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount code for use in the online store, right? That's store.virtualpbx.com. And then we have the account realm, right? Each account has its own realm. You use that for 2 things predominantly. The first is to program a third-party application, right? Third-party soft phone. You need 3 pieces of information, and the account realm is one of them. And the other thing it's used for is for faxing out. So on Dash, to send a fax out, you create an email, right? Like you normally do. And in the to field of email, you put the plus sign, the number 1, then the area code and phone number you're faxing to, @ and then you put in your account realm. Then you just need to add a PDF or TIFF file, and you click send, right? The system looks at the from field, the to field, and the attachments. It doesn't look at your subject line. It doesn't look at the body of the email. So, and also just 1 attachment per email. Okay, up here at the top, we have the company caller ID, right? This is your main or default caller ID for your account. This first pull down, which unfortunately my streaming software doesn't like to show, you can select any of your main company numbers, right? So any of those 4 numbers to the right. Then you've got the company caller ID name, also referred to as CNAME. This allows you to input up to 15 characters, that includes spaces and special characters, right? That becomes part of your caller ID that we transmit out when you make an outbound call from a VoIP phone. And then down here, we have the company emergency information, or E911. This is for a North American address. And then you would click on Save Changes. Once you click on Save Changes, this company caller ID name is transmitted to the other telephone carriers who support CNAME. It takes them about 3 business days to get updated. Can be faster. And so then once you make an outbound call, right, then this information gets sent along with your outbound phone number, right, whatever your main number is by default. Not every carrier that your call can route through supports CNAME. There's some carriers who chose not to do so. Also, just be aware of when you're calling cell phones, the cell phone carriers have control about what shows up on the cell phones on their network. I'm guessing most cell phone providers actually will charge you to, or charge their subscribers to be able to have CNAME show up, right? So I use AT&T. I looked at this a few years ago now. They wanted $10 a month for CNAME to show up on every call that comes to me. I decided that wasn't worthwhile, so I don't get CNAME showing up on my cell phones. And that's probably pretty common for most people. So something to be aware of if you're testing to cell phones. It may not show up properly. So any changes here, click on Save Changes down here at the bottom. All right, next up we have hold music. Now hold music on Dash is defined as after a call has reached a user and then that user has pressed hold on their VoIP phone. That's when the hold music file will play. But then you can upload your own file. That will play whenever your staff members press hold on their VoIP phones. You just click upload, click on browse to find a .mp3, a .ogg, or a .wav file. Those are the 3 supported formats. You want to make sure that file is recorded in mono, not in stereo, and that it's under 1 megabyte in file size. Then you click the little blue and white upload icon here, and once it's done, you click on Save Changes, and by default, that will play for all your users whenever they press hold on their VoIP phone. All right, hours is actually part of main number, so let's just go straight to main number. Up top, we have main company numbers, right? So these are those 4 phone numbers that currently I'm using as my main number. If I decide I no longer want to use a phone number as a main number, right, I would just click unassign. And now it's no longer a main number. Now the number is still on my account, right? It's just became a spare number now. If I need to add more main numbers, I have first option is add from spare numbers, right? Because I have available phone numbers. If you don't have any, right, you have no numbers on your account, for example, this will be grayed out. And then you have by numbers. You have local or toll-free. Toll-free, pretty easy. You choose the toll-free prefix you want to use. All right, click on search. And the system is checking to see what numbers are available and shows you the list. Now, this list is dynamic, meaning if there's other people, right, other of our customers looking at phone numbers, you're technically competing with them to get any number. You can scroll down to increase the list, but you would just click add number. It's added to your cart. Here's the number. You can delete it. You can add multiple numbers at once if you are so inclined, but then you would just click on by numbers. And there we go. Now it's on my account as a main number, right? I added it directly to where I wanted it. Local numbers, when you buy local, you need to know the area code. So if you choose something like this, right? So we can't immediately get you a number. Now our porting team can do what's called a back order. However, there's no guarantee that we'll get one. right? We're basically waiting for someone to give up their number. So in that instance, you want to go back to search, and you want to use a different area code. You might have to Google it, right? Look for overlays for that particular metropolitan area. But once you do, you can then add a number, and just like the toll free, you click on buy, and now it's verifying that the number is available. Now on phone numbers, they have this little gear icon here, so you can update the caller ID for the phone number, right? So you can have outbound CNAME for each of your phone numbers, and turn on the ability to accept inbound CNAME, right? So that way your staff members will see the inbound caller ID name, the E911. So you can have, each phone number can have its own E911 address. This allows you then to assign the E911 information for each of your VoIP phones to a specific phone number, right? So that way if you have, remote staff, which is more common these days, you can have the correct phone number or correct address for each of your staff members. So if they happen to dial 911 from their VoIP device, emergency services goes to the proper address. Here, this is Prepend. This is a VoIP feature. This allows you to put caller, right? I could say, have Houston show up here in front of this phone number. And that would, when the calls come in, I actually chose the wrong number, but when calls come into the 877 number, right, it will show up as Houston, and then the phone number of the person that's coming into. That way my staff members, this is call dealing with, the new market we just entered, right? So they can adjust their greeting. All right. Next up, we have office hours and your office hours strategy, or your business hours. So you have 24-hour open office, right? Meaning you're open for business all the time. Or you have custom office hours. When you choose custom office hours, then you need to know for each day of the week that you're open, you put a check mark in front of it. And then in these boxes to the right, you enter your open hours in 24-hour or military time. You also have the ability to be closed for lunch, and then you specify your lunch hours again in that 24-hour or military time, and then click on Save Changes. Next, for office holidays, first, are you closed for holidays? Right, put a check mark if you are, otherwise leave it blank. If you are closed for holidays, over here to the right, you click on Add Holiday. You have the option for single day, date range, and advanced. Pretty straightforward for the most part, right? Single day, like I have here for New Year's Eve, right? I give a name, I choose the month and the date. Right? Date range, I have here for Christmas break, again, give it a name, start date and end date. Now notice that there's no year indicator, so you want to avoid a date range that has New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, which is why I have these separated out. And then advanced, like I have up here for Thanksgiving, where I'm saying, hey, the third Thursday of November. Right, so choose the month, the day of the week, and then 1st through 5th or last. And then Save Changes. All right, then we have incoming call handling. Now, so the hours, your open hours, your holidays, right? That all refers to these main numbers, right? So now here we are under incoming call handling. So calls that come in on my main number. During my open hours, what do I want to do, right? During my lunch hours, what do I want to do? After hours and holidays, right? Same basic options are available here, right? So the first one here, calls come in, they go to my virtual receptionist. This is a link, so I can click on it. It's going to open up a new window. And here towards my left, I have the main menu, right? So this is what people can press on their phone to navigate through my phone system, right? And so you click on Add Route, and then unfortunately the pull down doesn't work here. You have the default action, and then 0 through 9 and the star key to choose from. And then you choose where it's going to go. All right, so let's go back up here. Directory, all right, the user directory, dial by name directory, however you want to refer to it. You can send callers to a specific user, right, specific person. You can send calls to a specific device, right, so a specific phone. The one caveat with that is if the device you're sending it to doesn't have its own built-in voicemail, then you're relying on the caller to either hang up or someone to answer, right? Because if there's no voicemail, it's just going to keep ringing until the inbound caller gives up. You can send it to a media file, right? You're just playing greetings, like you're giving like your hours of operation or directions. Now, once the media file ends, the call ends. So something to be aware of. You can send it to groups, right? So like a department. You can send it to advanced call flows. This would be for like your secondary attendance if your account supports that. You can send it to call queues, which is related to groups. And then you can also send it to a voicemail box. Over here to the right, first up, we have our greetings, right? This is how, where you say thank you for calling. You usually give your company name, but this is also, most importantly, where you give instructions to your customers, right? How to, what these options are, right? So then first up, you have text to speech. This allows you to type in a greeting, click update, and then save and save changes. You have 250 characters to work with, not words, characters. You can sometimes go a little bit over that, but 250 has been pretty consistently working in my testing. The system uses the same file name for your open hours greetings, right? Because that's what we are right now under text to speech. So I type in a greeting, right? I click save, etc. It saves it as main open hours menu TTS. Now let's say I call in to test it, see how it works. I'm like, that wasn't quite right. So I come back into my virtual receptionist here under incoming call handling, and I make a couple edits, right? I click update, save changes. The system saves a separate file, but with the same name, right? Main open hours menu TTS. So now I have two files with the same name, and I have no way to determine which one's which. My recommendation is after you make a text-to-speech greeting, right, and click save. Over here on the left, there's a greetings manager, right? Greetings tab. Find that greeting that you just created and rename it. So something you'll recognize. You can upload your own file, right? .wav, .mp3, .ogg, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Just find the file on your computer, click update, save changes. You can choose from an existing recording. So any media file that you've already added to the account, whether it's a voicemail greeting, a hold file, right? A hold music file, or main greeting, right? They're going to show up in this list. And that's why you want to have those like text-to-speech greetings renamed to something you can recognize. You can record it over the phone. Now, by default, the system will only allow you to record a greeting over the phone from a VoIP phone on the account. That is what it means by pick up a phone registered to this account. Now, if you want to use a cell phone or a landline, right, or you have that friend who's got that great radio voice, then under settings, just down here, and then allow outside recordings, you just want to turn that on. Once you turn that on, save changes. Now you can call in from a cell phone to record your main greeting. And then you need this PIN number. Now this PIN number is, going to differ from account to account, obviously, but it also is time specific, right? So it only works during my open hours, right? So if I call in after 5 p.m., this PIN number no longer works, right? I would need to use my after hours PIN number, but then I'm changing only my after hours file at that point. For new customers, when you first get call in to your main numbers, right, it will tell you that there's been no greeting recorded for this menu. And then it will prompt you to enter the PIN number. Now, if you've already been with us for a while, or like even a month, right, you've already had a greeting file in place, you can still call in And when you hear your current main greeting play, you can enter the PIN number, right? The system will recognize that and say, oh, okay, and start walking through recording a new main greeting over the phone. So greeting file A is what you heard when you called in. Then you record over the phone. That greeting file A, the content, you just overwrote it. All right, so you replace the content with the new greeting that you just recorded. And the reason I bring that up is, especially around holiday seasons, that means you might have just gotten rid of your normal greeting for most of the year and you replaced it with like a Christmas greeting. So normally not recommended unless you're just redoing the exact same greeting, right? Like you're like, oh, that was a little bit off, or we had to change someone's extension number. Then it's fine. All right. Professional recording services. When you click order here, this will take you to a new tab and to a site hosted by Snap Recordings. They have like 100 voice actors and actresses to choose from. They handle their own billing. They basically send you the file via email, and then you can upload your own file. All right, settings. First up here, we have a number of retries on misdial. This is basically how many times can the inbound caller make a mistake. All right, so what I'm saying here in this box, that my inbound caller can make one mistake, which means they get 2 tries, right? So call in, listen to the greeting, and they press 7, right? That's not a valid option. The system goes, oh, okay, that isn't right. It waits 5 seconds because of dialing timeout here, right? The next setting says, okay, they really meant 7. It's not an option. Then the system will replay the greeting. So now they get their first retry. Play the greeting. Customer, for whatever reason, press 7 again. System waits for 5 because of dialing timeout. And then then the system checks, right? If you have a default action, they'll send the caller to that. So in this case, right now, I'm sending someone who makes a mistake after that second attempt, I'm sending them to the directory. If I remove this, right, so now I don't have a default action. After that second attempt, the system ends the call. And it will tell that by default, here, let's change that. It will tell the system we did button press, or after it hears a button press, how much times it listens before it assumes the person's done dialing, right? So like if you have customers who know the extension number, right, they'll probably know it pretty quickly. So that's why I usually recommend between 2 to 5. But it gives people time to enter in additional digits for extension numbers. All right. Now, allow dialing extensions down here. By default, it is on. In fact, this is default for those settings right here. So allow outward spread recording is off, and the suppress of the invalid entry is off. But allow dialing extensions is on. Right, so this means if someone knows the extension number they want to reach, the system will listen for it and then pass it on. If I turn this off, that means the system won't listen for extension numbers. It just here's a button press and will only allow calls to go to these menu options. And then here we have the suppress playing of that invalid entry message, right? So after that last retry, they still made a mistake. The system by default lets the customer, that inbound caller, know we didn't recognize your entries, but then says goodbye. Now, if you don't want that message to play, then you just turn this off. Right? If you want it there, you turn it on. So any changes you make to your main menu, your settings, or your greetings, excuse me, kind of did that in the wrong order, right? Click save here on this box at the bottom. Now, when the box disappears, you're still on your incoming call handling page. You need to click save changes here as well, right? You're clicking save twice. All right, the second option is your live operator answer option, right? So you're basically giving, in this case, I'm giving a group an option or the opportunity to answer a call first. If they're not able to take the call, then the call goes to a virtual receptionist. This is a pull down, right? So you can select users, right? I can select ring groups. You can select a specific device. You can select a call queue. You can select a media file. I don't recommend it because that means your inbound caller is going to hear two greetings back to back, and that can throw people off. Or if they think they got, they're getting a loop that they can't get out of. You can also send it to a secondary attendant if you have that. Now, the virtual receptionist, this one's going to be different, right? Because it's my lunch hours. So I only have a default action. I would have a different greeting in place. And you could change these settings as well. The third option here, right? You can still offer it to someone, but then eventually, instead of going to virtual receptionist, if no one picks up, it's going to a voicemail box. Both of these are pull downs. Up here, you have the same basic options, right? You have users, groups, call queues, devices. You could have a media file here as well. And I think you can have your alternate attendants. Yeah, you can have your secondary attendants if you have it. And then you have the extra option here of skip to voicemail. All right, this pull down, you choose the voicemail box on the account. Now this is something I would typically see on a seasonal business under holidays, right? Or like a small business, right? Someone like one person shop wants to take vacation, right? Now, if you have multiple auto attendants, then you also have the option to send callers to one of your secondary attendants. And then you would obviously, when you make any changes, just again, make sure you click on Save Changes. Main conference number, right? You can add from spare by new, right? So you have multiple phone numbers. You can click on Custom Greeting here, enable it. This is a simple text-to-speech greeting, so 250 characters. Now, even without this enabled, right, the system does say welcome to the conference and prompts people to enter the conference room number and then the PIN number, right? So if you want to do the custom greeting, it's mostly to say, let people know what conference room they're joining, right, or what company they've called. The main fax box number, you can only have the one main fax box number. This enables your ability to receive faxes. Excuse me. Edit fax box down here. Now, first up, you have the inbound notification email, right? You just put an email address in here, and that email address gets an email every time a fax comes through, right? And that email is going to have like the date, the time, the phone numbers involved, and have a PDF attachment, right? So then that person or people, if you have a distribution list, can then double click on the PDF and see the fax. Now, this email address will also get notifications for a failed inbound fax attempt. For instance, if I called this number, I heard fax tones, and I hang up, that's good. The system will still just generate an email saying, hey, there's a failed fax attempt. The email permissions, this is for your outbound fax permissions. Now, typically this is designed so you can put your company email domain here. So that way everyone at your company can fax out, even if they're not a user on the Dash account. You can also specify, put a single email address, and then only that one person can send a fax out. And then make sure you click on Save Changes. All right, auto attendants. Now, this is a plan-specific feature, meaning you can have secondary auto attendants. A couple use cases is if you own several small businesses, right? Each business would then can have its own phone number, its own main greeting, but you have the same staff people answering the calls for both businesses, or all three businesses. The other, which I've kind of mentioned, is a submenu option, right? 1 for English, 2 for Spanish, 3 for Chinese, right? So those would all have their own attendants here. And then, so for Spanish, right, I would have a Spanish greeting, and the menu options would go to my Spanish-speaking staff members. Right, same for Chinese and English. Creating attendant, pretty easy. Up at the top, you click Add Attendant. You give it a name and an extension number. The extension number is only basically for your staff members. And then you click on Create Attendant. Now, once an attendant is created, You click on the name, you have to decide, is it unavailable in main menu, or click on it to make it available in main menu, right? Available in main menu just means it's a submenu option, right? So there are many ways to get to it, right? Unavailable in main menu means it's standalone, right? So the only way to get to it is if in this next box is if you assign a phone number to it, or if one of your staff members transfers a call to the extension number associated with the auto attendant. If you want to switch extension numbers, I recommend adding the new extension that it's going to. Hopefully that not an extension number already in use, right? So a new extension number. Click Save Changes, and then unassign, or click on the box again, click unassign on the original extension, and then the 5560 becomes available for use for another, like a group or a user or what have you. Then you have the little wrench icon here under settings. Now, you have open hours, lunch hours, after hours, and holidays, right? This all is taken from the main number, right? So any phone numbers associated with your auto attendants or your main number, right? They're all going to follow your open hours, your after hours, your holidays, etc. Right? So if you have, a business that's open 24/7 and another business that's only open 5 days a week, you're probably not going to be able to have them on the same account, at least out of the box, right? There might be custom work that can be done, which you would want to talk to our account services team about, in terms of if it's better to go with the custom work or to go with 2 separate accounts. By default, you can have up to 10 secondary attendants, so 11 total with the main. All right, Devices tab shows all your devices on the account. Green means it's registered, so we can send calls to and from it. Red means not registered, so we can't send calls to and from it. Black means you've turned it off, right? You turn it on, it will update, and now it's green. Right, so like you're temporarily not using that number for whatever reasons. Up here at the top, you can add devices if you're so inclined. I typically recommend adding devices directly to the user, which I'll show you later. But you can also, like this is, for me, the devices page adding here is mostly like when you're setting up a new office, right? So your IT guy is just adding a bunch of new phones all at once, and he doesn't know where people are going to sit yet, right? So it's like, hey, all the phones are here, they're added. And once we know where people are sitting and who's who, then we can assign it. But first up, we have SIP phone, right? That's that physical VoIP phone that sits on someone's desk. You have these manufacturers to choose from. Right? Some, like Yealink, they have a lot of models to work with. Others, not as many. Now, you want to find the make and model of the phone, right? So I'm looking like Cisco, right? Would be the make. The 525G would be the model. I want to give it a name, right? Something that you'll recognize. I usually say, person's name phone, right? So Andy's phone, right? MAC address, typically a sticker on the back of the phone or on the bottom of the phone. Also, when the phone's plugged in, usually it's under like your basic settings or your status. It'll have a MAC entry, and you'd want to enter that here. And then you click on Create Device. After you click on Create Device, the only other thing you have to do is assign it to a user within the dashboard. However, you need to access the phone's web user interface. And when you do that, you need to enter in a URL. Basically, you're telling the phone, hey, go to this web page, right, or this address. And then from there, it will be able to download its config file. It should reboot a couple times and then show up as a green device. Now, for the specifics of that, and for these various manufacturers, excuse me, you want to go to our support pages, and you're looking for the document called Auto Provisioning Phones. That document will have screenshots of the various devices or the various interfaces for the specific manufacturers, the syntax, right, the correct way that you should enter that URL into the web UI, and in some cases, double checking some settings. Right, cell phone and landline are the same in that you give it a name, right? So Angela's phone, and then in the number field, you put the plus sign, the number 1, area code and phone number, click on create device. Now, by default, when we send a call to a cell phone, right, it looks like this under the advanced settings. So call comes into our system, we send it out to a cell phone rings. When you pick up, you're going to hear, this is a forwarded call, please press 1. Right, when you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you're there, and yes, you want to take the call. Right, it's one of those ways to let you know it's a work call versus, random person calling you on your cell phone. Now, if, for instance, you actually added a cell phone, but you're actually sending that call to like an automated answering service for your after-hours calls, then you'd want to come here and click on the box in front of Allow Use of Cell Phone's Voicemail, and then click on Save Changes. Now, when we send the call to this phone number, right, when we hear that pickup tone, we connect the call. Right? We don't wait for the 1 to be pressed. So then your automated answering service can handle the call and move forward. Now, if it's actually your cell phone, right, and your cell phone voicemail picks up with this setting enabled, we still treat that like a connected call, so your business call can end up on your personal cell phone voicemail. That's a personal preference, up to you. The other thing that sometimes comes up is keep original caller ID, right? So basically, say customer Mary calls into the system, gets out to your cell phone device on your user. On your cell phone, you see customer Mary's phone number. If you don't recognize the number, you might let it go to voicemail because you're tired of hearing about extending your auto warranty. And then maybe you're not able to reconnect with Mary, right? Just because of time or what have you. Now, if you uncheck this, instead of seeing customer Mary's phone number show up on the account, you see your main company number show up on the account or on your cell phone, right? So hopefully that you would recognize the work phone number. You're like, oh, I should probably take this call. So the number that's showing up, all right, if we go back to the dashboard, that's this number you selected here on this pull down. All right, next up, soft phone. If you add a soft phone on the devices page, you can only add a third-party soft phone. Right, so a soft phone other than from VirtualPBX. You'd still give it a name, and then you would copy and paste the SIP username. If you click on the SIP password box, you'll see the SIP password, so you're going to want to copy and paste that someplace, and then copy and paste the realm. Those are the 3 pieces of information you need to program or provision that third-party soft phone to get it to work with us. For the VirtualPBX Iphone app, you actually need to add the soft phone directly to the user. You have a different option there, which we'll show. You can also add a web phone here. I don't recommend it just because the web phone, it has a login requirement, and that login requirement matches the Dash user login. So until you add the soft phone to a user, it's not workable anyway. So that's why I say just add it to the user. You do have a little gear icon here next to devices, or wrench icon, excuse me, right? So you can see the name and the MAC address, but under advanced, right, you can check your SIP if you need it for whatever reasons. You might want to double check the audio because you want to make sure you have codecs here to the right. Specifically, you want G711A and G711U. You could also put in Opus. Opus, though, is typically for soft phones, right? And then you would click on Save Changes. Restrictions, you can restrict what where phone numbers can, or what phones can call where in broad swaths, right? International is basically outside the US, for example. External caller ID, you can choose to have your different VoIP devices have different outbound caller IDs, and that's based on your phone numbers on the account. Emergency caller ID, right? This is where you would select a different phone number, so that way you would have a different address associated with this phone number, or this VoIP phone, excuse me. right, for E911 purposes. Miscellaneous, the main thing that comes up here is to unlock a phone if you need to reprovision it, like you had to move it. That sometimes comes up. And if the phone supports BLF keys, you could set up your BLF keys here. All right, the greetings manager, I mentioned this briefly under the main number incoming call handling. This shows your various media files on your account. You can add new ones up here, right? Give it a name, find the file on your computer, .wave, .mp3, .ogg, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte, and then click create greeting. It will upload it to the system and add it here. Now, you've got the greeting name, you have the source, right? So TTS means text to speech, right? I have another one up here, right? Upload, well, that means you just uploaded it. And recording means you recorded it over the phone. You can click on the download link here to download the file so you can listen to it on your computer to see if it's still relevant, for example. And then if you click on the little wrench icon here, you can change the name of it. All right, so like I could just, all right, oops. And then save changes, right? Likewise, you can delete a greeting if it's no longer relevant. Okay, groups, sometimes referred to as ring groups or hunt groups, right? Departments. These are included. There's no special fees for this. You click on add group, you give it a name and an extension number, and then you click and drag your staff members who you want to be in the group. And then you click on create group. Once a group's created, you can click on its name and you can change the name at any time. Here you have the group call attempts. All right, I have 2. You have little arrows here to the right that you can increase or decrease that as you see fit. What this is how many times the inbound caller is offered to your staff members, right? How many attempts is offered to everybody. And then you click on save changes. The next box over, that's our members box. So here I see my staff members who are assigned to this group, and I have this set up as ring all, right? So it's ringing everybody for 2 minutes, right? So if call comes into Jan here, he picks up, that's great. If a second call comes into Jan, he might hear a call waiting beep until one of the other staff members picks up. Now, the way to avoid that is to disable call waiting on your device that you're answering calls on. It's not a dash system setting. Now, for your members here, let's say Jan here has 3 different devices on his user. Any call that's offered to him from a group, it's going to ring all of his devices. All right, group members, you can answer calls from a cell phone, landline, or a Voip phone. Doesn't matter. Now, the downside of groups is these people can't change their status other than the D&D toggle at the top of the page, right? They're always in the group. As an admin, you have some routing options, right? So I can click distribute here. So now I'm ringing in this order, right? And every call will then that comes into this group will go in the same order no matter what. Now, let's say Jan has a special project, so I want to move him towards the end. Let's say Peter just finished his, right? So I can click and drag and change the order, but the ring order still hasn't changed yet until I click distribute again, right? So now Peter's first. Right? If I need to remove someone from a group, I can just click on remove, right? But then I probably want to readjust. I can add users here at the bottom left. All right, I can add 2 new people. And again, I would want to probably redistribute. Now up here, this last box here to the right, this is your time durations. And by default, groups are set to 120 seconds. You can change that if you are so inclined. These are sliders, so you can adjust, right? So you can do things like that. I can, hey, oh, I want another person to be the whole duration and things like that. Or just click distribute and it equalizes out over time. Groups can have extension numbers, right? You can add additional extension numbers if you want them. Groups can also have their own phone number. Now, one thing to keep in mind about this phone number, if I add one here, right, it's not a main number, right, or an auto attendant number, which means it doesn't have hours of operation, right? So that number means on a group or even on a user, it's available 24/7. Right, then we have got group features. Ringback, this allows you to have a media file play when the inbound caller waits for someone to pick up. Now, notice it's not called hold music or anything like that. It's called ringback, because what happens by default, right? So if you don't have this set, right, callers come in and are offered to your staff members. Once one of your staff members' phones starts ringing, right, that ringing sound gets transmitted back to the inbound caller, right, ringing back. That's why it's called ringback. Now, if you don't want that ringing sound to come back to your inbound caller, right, you would enable this feature. Oops. Upload a .media, .wave, .mp3, .ogg file recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. So from that, once you click save, changes, right? Instead of hearing that ringing sound that's coming back from my user's devices, my inbound caller is hearing this media file. If for some reason my staff members' phones aren't producing that ringing sound back to the system doesn't replace that no sound with anything, right? It just plays back silence because it doesn't have anything to replace the ringing sound with. All right, next action, probably one of the more important features. It's basically saying, hey, if no one calls up, right, you enable this feature. What do you want to do with the caller? Right, most of the time it's sent to a voicemail box, but hey, you got all sorts of options. You can send it back to your virtual receptionist. You can send it to one of your secondary attendants. You can send it to a call queue. You can send it to a specific phone. You can send it to a different ring group or specific user or a voicemail box. Allow call forwarding. If you enable this, you're just letting your users make use of call forwarding. And then caller ID prepend, Voip feature, allows you to put text or numbers in front of the caller ID that shows up on your staff members' Voip phones. Right? So for people taking multiple kinds of calls, it helps them keep an idea of what they might be talking about. Numbers tab shows default sheet of numbers in use. So you see which numbers you're using, where they go. Right? You got the little gear icon here, so you can adjust the caller ID E911 and prepend. Spare numbers, these are numbers you're not using. Now, so your numbers, you get a number allotment based on your plan, right? I'm well over any of the allotments because by default, I think it's between 2 and 15 phone numbers on our standard plans. So if I wanted to decrease my bill, one of the ways I could do that would be to remove a phone number. So if I click on the box in front of the number, now I have the option to delete. And here, we'll get rid of these 3 here. I'll click on delete. It says, are you sure you want to do that? I said, yes, I do. It says, hey, you've deleted the numbers. Now they're no longer on my account. So now I will no longer be billed for them. Up here, right, you can buy local or toll-free numbers to add more spare numbers to your account. Right, that means like, oh, I need to, you need to add numbers, but you don't know to who yet, right, or how exactly you're using it. Right, basically, your boss says, hey, we're expanding to these markets, get numbers for them. You can add them to spare, so you're ready to go once more details come forward. Port, industry term, means to move a phone number from one carrier, right, telecom provider, to another telecom provider. You would click on New Port Request. You give it a name. Choose US local or toll-free. Right, then you click on Next. Now it wants you to upload a copy of your bill. Should be within 30 days, right? That's what that thing is here for. After that, it asks you for the address associated with the phone number and the phone numbers that you're going to port. It gives you the ability to download a blank letter of agency, or LOA. Then you can upload a completed and signed LOA. There's 4 boxes that you need to check. You can also input a preferred port date, and then you click submit. Right. Once the submission is completed, you'll get an email automatically right away saying, hey, your submission went through. Within the next business day, you should get a second email from our porting team. Right. That basically means someone's actually looked at your port request and has processed it. Now, for the LOA, right, it asks for like your business name and the address. That should be what your current carrier, right, whoever you're porting from, has on file for your account. Right, the LOA does need to be signed. Right, that can be a digital signature, or you can print it out, sign it, and scan it back in. Right, if you just type your name in twice, it's going to get rejected and then delay the port. If you do put in a port date, right, we do try to honor that, but we don't actually have control over it. The losing carrier, right, the company that currently has the number, they actually determine when the port gets completed. Typically speaking, toll-free numbers take about 3 to 5 business days if everything is correct. Local numbers, about 2 to 3 weeks on average. If we do get a rejection, our porting team will let you know, and they'll usually let you know what the reason was. It's not always very specific, right? So like we can get a rejection for address mismatch. And that's basically what they tell us. If we're lucky, they sometimes say, oh, the street number is wrong, right? Or the address or the zip code is wrong, but they don't normally even tell us that much. All right, users, all right, shows your users on the account. The gray person is a standard user. Blue suit is a system admin. Up here at the top, you click add user, right? First and last name, right? You should probably have that information. The email address used for login, right? Unique for each user. So I couldn't reuse support at virtualpbx.com for 5 different users. Then you create a password for them, and then you give it a main extension number. Now, this system started with extension 1000, so that's why it's saying, hey, 1020 is the next available, right? I can type in whatever I want. Then we got create voicemail box for this user. That voicemail box, if you leave that checked, will be intrinsically tied to the user, right? So you create the user, and then let's say you add a VoIP phone to that user right away. That staff member can pick up their VoIP phone and hit *98, click send on the VoIP phone. That's going to automatically log them into this voicemail box you just created. The system will then prompt them to enter a PIN number for it, right? Go create their own voicemail box PIN, and then walk them through recording their voicemail greeting. Include in the company directory, all right, in the dial by name directory. You can change this at any time. Send emails to an alternate address. So by default, right, if any user gets a voicemail message, for example, the system will send an email to the email address used for login with that voicemail information, right, the date, the time, and an MP3 file attachment that they can click on to listen to it. If for some reason you don't want the email address used for login to get that email, but you want it to go to somewhere else, that's when you would use send to an alternate address. Right? Likewise, password resets would also go through the email address used for login. And then this last option here, send credentials to the user so they know how to log into Dash. Right? Then either create user if you only need to create the one person, otherwise create user and add another. Voicemail boxes shows your voicemail boxes on the account. Now, most of yours will probably have a name associated with it. That means this is a voicemail box that's assigned to a user, right? It was probably created with and actually was created with the user at the same time. You can create your own voicemail boxes up here at the top. Oops. Right? You just need to give it a name, a voicemail box number, and PIN number, and then click on create. Once a voicemail box is created, whether here or because of a user was created, right? You can click on the little wrench icon so you can see their basic information, right? In case you need to update it or someone forgot their PIN number. Then under advanced, greeting media. You typically want to have a media file associated, right? It's personalized, right? The system does have a generic, please leave, like so-and-so is not available, or the person at extension like 1000 is not available. Please leave a message, right? That the system automatically plays that. If you wanted something personalized, right, you can select from the pull down. You can upload a file, right? Under the basic settings, this is how the user could call in, right? Because they would know their voicemail box number and PIN number. They can record it over the phone. Then, oh, oops. The temporary file, right? That's the out of office, right? Or vacation voicemail. So if you have something selected here, it will supersede the media file, right? Once you put this back to none, then the media file plays. All right, recipients. Now, your user voicemail boxes already have one recipient built in, right? The email address used for login. For like the main voicemail box here, it doesn't have a user associated with it. So I would want to click add recipient, and then I would add an email address here, and then click on save changes. Or if I click add, I would be adding a second email address or a third or fourth, etc. And then options. So once you have a recipient and a media file in place for any voicemail box, then you can click on the already set up check mark. And then by default, right, systems attach voice mode email. I skipped over a lot of stuff on users, didn't I? My apologies. Let's go back. Sorry. So once a user's created, you can click on their name, right? You can adjust the name. You can change their credentials, right? Email address, password. You can also resend the password reset. You can change the voicemail PIN number. Here's the option to send to an alternate address or not. And then the ability to be in the user directory. This pull down here is to make a person an admin or a user. If you just signed up and you only have the one user, please don't change yourself from an admin to just a user. Here's the time zone. You can do a search, and so you can set your user to the appropriate time zone. This little flag here is for the display language of the web pages, English, French, German, or Russian. The ringing timeout is defaulted to 20 seconds. This user has a feature enabled called follow me calling, so that's why it's grayed out. And then save changes. All right, users can have multiple extension numbers if you want them to. You can also add phone numbers to specific users. And again, these phone numbers are available 24/7, so not always wise. Here we got the devices box for the user, right? So you can add devices directly here. Let me cancel this. And so here, if we add the soft phone, right, we get the little warning message. You should read that at least once. And then here, right, I start off as a third-party application. Notice it says it right here now, right, third-party application. If I click that, now it says use VirtualPBX application. Now in this instance, I got a warning message saying, hey, this email address already has a soft phone associated with them. Meaning, right, each email address can only have one soft phone. Doesn't matter how many accounts you have. So I have to close this. So that means that right now I can only add a third-party soft phone to Giovanni here. If I click on Giovanni's name though, right, if I send to an alternate address and say, now assuming I'm not using that email address for a soft phone anywhere, oops, I'm clicking too fast. Let's see if that will allow me to add the soft phone or the VirtualPBX soft phone. Yep. All right. So then I can add, give it a name. I click on Create Device, and then I click on Save Changes. Once I click on Save Changes, then Giovanni here will get an email with his credentials for the soft phone. Right, and that email also has download links, right? So then you can download the VirtualPBX Iphone app, use those credentials to log in and make and receive calls. Now, the soft phone app uses its own set of credentials, right? Completely different than what you use to log into Dash. Right. Now, the web phone, again, always easier to add it onto a user. Create device, save changes, and now he has a device. All right, users has features. First, caller ID. This is if for any user that has their own phone number. When you're turning it on, you select whatever phone number or whichever phone number you want to use. Click on Save Changes. That phone number now becomes their outbound caller ID from their VoIP phones instead of using the main company number. Call forwarding. Your users can actually turn call forwarding on themselves. Right? There's an ability to do that on the user portal, as well as via feature codes on a VoIP phone. Right? Failover mode is something an admin has to set up. That basically says system detects your VoIP phone becomes unregistered, and a call comes to you, then the system will automatically forward the call. And we just need, is it desk phone or mobile, +1 area code and phone number. Click on Save Changes. Hot desking, this is a VoIP feature. Hot desk ID, I usually just say, hey, if you're going to use, I recommend 4-digit extensions, and then for hot desking, just use their extension number at that point. Click on Save Changes. This is good for shared office environments or hybrid scheduling, where staff members might switch desks from day to day. So hot desking is, say Aaron comes into the office on Tuesday, he sits down at desk number 7. All right, he picks up the handset on the phone, he hits *11. That's the feature code to turn on hot desking on his VoIP phone. The system asks him for his hot desk ID, he enters that, and then tells him phone calls will now be sent to this device. Rest of his day, while he's sitting at desk 7, any calls to his user will ring to that device that he's sitting at. End of his day, picks up the handset, hits *12, turns off hot desking. Next time he comes into the office, right? Let's say that's even the following Tuesday, right? So he comes in once a week, right? Someone's already sitting at desk number 7. He says hi to Felicia. He moves on and he sits at desk number 12, right? Same process. Picks up the phone, *11, hot desk ID number. Now he's getting calls. Voicemail box, right? This is the voicemail box created with the user. By default, right? We send email, and it's an attachment file. Now, transcription, this is actually a plan-specific feature where the system listens to the voicemail and tries to type it out as best it can in that notification email. Bear in mind that sometimes people don't speak into their mics properly, or there's enough background noise that the system might have trouble picking it up, so it's not always going to be 100% accurate. Voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages, so you might want to have the delete after notification checkbox checked. Now, what this means is, right, voicemail is left, we send out the email with the attachment, the system deletes the voicemail from the system. That means this user, right, Aaron, he won't be able to check voicemail over the phone or check in the user portal. So, yeah, because he can only get it via email. So if he has a problem with his email, then he might lose voicemails, is the only caveat there. Users can have their own fax boxes if you want them to. If you do this, I do recommend using a phone number, right? Either select a spare number or buy a new number. For adding a phone number to a fax box like this, you can only buy one number, or even only select only one spare number. But then once you do so, you save changes. And then people can fax that fax box number directly, and then Aaron would get a fax, right? He'd get an email with that notification. When he sends out, the system will use that caller ID of his fax box number as his outbound caller ID for his fax. Now, you can set up an extension number like I've done here. This means Aaron can only receive faxes, right? And there's some caveats there, right? Because people would have to call into a main number that goes to the virtual receptionist and then hit 399 and then click on send fax. So on a physical analog fax machine, probably doable, right? People usually have speakerphone or a handset they can listen to enter in the extra keys. In some cases, right, you can try like some fax machines allow you to enter like star or comma to give pauses before the extension number. Anyone with electronic fax services, though, they may not be able to fax to an extension, which is why I don't recommend. Which is another reason why I don't recommend a fax box with an extension number. Conference bridge. This means you enable conferencing on the user. As an admin, the only thing you need to do is create a personal PIN number. Your user can go to their user portal and adjust their conference PIN numbers themselves. Follow Me is for users with multiple devices. When you first enable it, it actually looks like this. Right? Basically, you have to tell it, hey, what phones am I ringing on? Right? You uncheck the devices you want to use, and you have this little box here for the time duration, and you can click distribute. And just like groups, right, you can change the order and click distribute. Right? You can adjust the sliders. Oops. And then click on Save Changes. Music on hold, you can have users have their own hold music, right? So each can be different, or like you have, say, my sales team has one hold music, my billing team has a second hold music, my support team has a third hold music, right? And you can customize it that way. Upload, again, .mp3, .ogg, .wav, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Customize call recording. So when you first enable it, it looks like this, right? You needed to tell the system what kind of calls you want recorded. Inbound internal, right? Coworker call, right? Someone else on your Dash account called, right? Inbound external would be a customer call, right? Outbound internal means this user called another coworker. Outbound external means Aaron called a customer back. Now, each account has its own storage amount associated with it based on your plan. There's overages if you go over. For that, you'd want to speak to our account services team. Do not disturb. If you enable that on a user, it means they're not getting calls. Right? Calls to their user would go to voicemail. They would not be offered calls from queues or groups. Advanced routing, this is where direct inward system access is, or DISA. Now, if you just signed up with us, this feature does not show up for you. That is something that you would have to contact our account services team for in order to get that enabled. What this does is allow you to call into your system with a cell phone or a landline. You can then log in and then make an outbound call. And when you make that outbound call, instead of your cell phone number showing up as the outbound caller ID, it's your main company number. All right, so once this is on the account, you first want to click Enable. And it automatically assigns a PIN number. Now, I recommend you click Edit Settings, and then you add an extension number. And you want to make sure that extension number is not part of your normal sequence, right? So like on this system, we started with extension 1000. I would not want to make my DISA extension 1020. Someone might be able to figure that easily. So do something like that, because hopefully I'm not using many extensions in the 6000 range. And now I click on Save Changes. So now from my cell phone, I can call in to my main number that rings to a virtual receptionist or one of my auto attendant numbers. Right, I hear the main greeting play. I enter the extension number. The system will then prompt me for the PIN number. And once I enter that properly, I hear dial tone again, right? So then I enter area code and phone number, and then I make an outbound call. And instead of my cell phone number show up, right, it's this phone number that shows up as the outbound caller ID. Now, the reasons why this is not enabled on new accounts right off the bat is that if people figure it out, bad actors is a common term, right? So if bad actors figure this information out, they can make outbound calls on your account, and you may not know about it right away. In fact, most people probably wouldn't know about it until they got their next invoice and then wondered why their minute usage is so high. Now, the way you might see that would be via the call logs. Right, so call logs will show the call usage. And you see here, I have several outbound calls. I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. I don't know, normally we're an inbound kind of call place. But I can click on this right side, the yellow arrow to the left indicating outbound. And I can see, oh, okay, Mike used his Voip phone. He made an outbound call. All right. Nixie here looks like he used either a soft phone. Yeah, used a soft phone to make an outbound call. All right, I can change this to this week to get a broader range of calls. And I have these green arrows to the right noting an inbound call. Some of them are kind of short. Excuse me. But you can click on it to sometimes get a better idea of where the call went. You can go custom, right? And I could, for instance, do all of February. And then I can scroll down, see more history. All right, here we go, where inbound call came out and I can see what device it rang to. You do want to see normal clearing for the most part. That lets you know call, as far as the system is concerned, ended normally. If you see something else, I thought like there was like a no route destination, that usually there's some sort of configuration problem with the device usually. Now each of these calls has a little fire hydrant icon here. When you click on that, it's going to create an email that goes to support@virtualpbx.com and have the technical details of the call. I do strongly suggest you type in the body of that email to let us know what the experience was, right? Like I had, bad audio, or my phone didn't actually ring, what have you. And that gives us an idea of what issue you're reporting. Now, for the call logs, right, under this custom setting, for example, you can go back up to 1 year and download the files right down here. This will download a CSV file, so you can use your preferred spreadsheet program to sort through the information. If you need your call records, right, or these call logs for compliance reasons, I would recommend that you do that at least once a month. Our DevOps team, our engineers, right, they can go back up to 18 months, but after that, call data is gone. So if it's something you definitely have to have, I would say do it every month. If you have heavy call volume, you might actually have to do the custom by week versus by month. After like around 500-ish records, I think it is. It might be a little bit less than that. It takes a long time for the records to show up. All right, feature codes. I've already mentioned a couple of these, right? These are essentially dial pad shortcuts from a Voip phone to access different Voip features. This is also available on our webpage under our support pages, right? There's a feature codes doc. There's also a phone commands cheat sheet doc that has like a brief write-up about how to use the various feature codes. All right, so that was the dashboard. We're just go down here. Blacklist is an included feature. This allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you are blocking from reaching your account. Right, you would click on Edit Blacklists. If you don't have a list, right, you would just click Add. You give it a name, and then you need to decide, are you blocking anonymous or not? Right? That means if we don't get valid inbound caller ID, if you turn this on, we're blocking the call. If you leave it off, that means they'll go through. Beyond that, you would click here where it says add number, +1, area code and phone number, no spaces, no parentheses, no dashes, just +1 and the number. And then you just keep clicking add to add additional phone numbers. When you're done, you would click on save, and then you click back to settings. You want to make sure your list is over here on the right under selected, and then you click update. So now any phone number I have on this list, if they try to call any of my phone numbers on my account, right? So any number that shows up under numbers, right? They get a busy tone. Faxes, this goes to your fax manager, right? So you can see like your inbound faxes, right? The date, the time, who, where, what phone number it came from, right? The target phone number, number of pages. You can download the file. You can also look at the technical details. Outbound faxes, I believe, MJ. Right here, you see his failed and successful. Now, if you have failures here, that means we had a problem communicating with the other fax machine. Right now, this is where you would want to click on the little details icon here. Right, obviously the status is failed because the little red failed let us know that. But if you scroll down towards the bottom, you say subscriber absent. That means no one was there. Right, and if we click on this one here, right, no user response. So that means no one picked up. Right, both instances, you'd probably want to A, double check the fax number, and then B, try again. Now, in the email to fax logs, if you have anything here, this is where this would show if the system had a problem with the request, right? So like the wrong email address was used to send a fax out, or the person had the wrong kind of attachment, right? You would have the information here. Under details, there'd be a little eyeball icon. If you click on that, that'll give you some greater details about what the error was. If you also look at last week's training, we actually had a sample here. I'm not sure if the system must have wiped it after so much time. All right, number manager. This is basically our spare numbers page, right? So you can add numbers, support them, etc. Reports would actually open a new tab. It takes you to our advanced reporting, which is a plan-specific feature. Basically, you can create your own reports to get a better idea of your call activity on the system. I would strongly encourage you to look on our YouTube channel. We have a advanced reporting demo video up, so you can look at that. Voicemails, we have the voicemail manager. Basically, you can go to any voicemail box on the account and see their messages. Let me see if I can find one that I'm sure has voicemails. Right, so here you see the various voicemails I have. None of them are new, right? So I've listened to them, or I've the user actually have them ready for deletion. Now, as an admin, right, I can view all of this. I can play back the file. I can download it. If I wanted to, if I click on a box, right, I can say select my deleted files, right? I can also, as an admin, I can move them to a different voicemail box if I'm so inclined. And I can just say, mark those as listened. Right, so now they're not ready to be deleted, but they're now part of the inbox. All right, Acd Cues, this stands for Automatic Call Distribution. This is a plan-specific upgrade feature, right? So you have to be on the correct plan, and then it's an upgrade to that plan. For costs, please check with our account services team. Uh, you would click on Add New Queue to create a queue. I'm just going to click the gear icon on an existing queue. Give it a name. A queue can have either a phone number or an extension. Cannot have both. Right? One or the other. Right. Then we have the queue routing strategy. This one is set to round robin. The pull down doesn't work here, but you have ring all, right, which is same thing groups have. Round robin will equalize out over time. There's most idle. Whoever's been waiting for the call the longest gets the next call. Least calls would be the least amount of connected calls. And then there's least offered, right? Combination of missed and connected calls. Right. So basically, most of the queue routing strategies in queues are designed to make it more even call distribution versus in the groups. You have hold treatment, which is kind of cut off here, but you can upload your own file, right? .wav, .mp3, etc. The queue timeout, measured in seconds, right? How much time people can wait on hold. Queue call limit is how many people can wait on hold. This is on top of the number of people who are speaking to your staff members. Right. Timeout immediately if empty. If you have no staff members logged in and a call comes into your queue, if this is enabled, you're saying that inbound call waited for 3,600 seconds, or treating it that way. Escalation call flow after timeout is after that 3,600 seconds, where are you sending the call? You choose something from the pull down, like a user, another group, another queue. You can send it back to your virtual receptionist or one of your other attendants, etc. Zero out call flow, right? So you're allowing people to press 0. Where do you want them to go when they press 0? Agent behavior, agent recovery timeout, usually between 0 and 30 seconds. What this means is after an agent has finished a call, right, from the queue, the system will, in this case, give them 15 seconds before it will offer them a second call from the queue. Force away on reject or missed. If this is enabled, that means if an agent misses a call, the system automatically marks them as away, meaning they won't be offered more calls until the agent marks themselves ready again. Agent connect timeout is 20 seconds by default, right? How much time we're trying to connect the call to the agent. For queue calls, right? For agent queues, they can only receive calls on a VoIP device. Right? So SIP phone, soft phone, or a web phone. Right? No cell phones, no landlines. Now, these are the standard queues that we're looking at here. We also have Acd Cues Pro, which are also plan specific upgrade. In terms of configuration, it's slightly different in that you have the whole treatment, you have more options. Right? You can announce the position in line and their wait time. You can also play multiple media files. You can assign users directly to the queue when you first create the queue, which I can't do on this one. You also have the ability for agents to see, or turn on the ability or off for agents to see the status of their coworkers. Now, once you're in, for standard queues, once you've created a queue, over here on the left, you want to click on members. This list of people here, these are my staff members that I say are part of my queues, right? Now, this doesn't mean they've been assigned to a queue. It just means they can be. If I click on manage members up here, I have two lists. The list on the right are my people who can be in queues. My list on the left are people I haven't assigned to a queue yet. All right, so if I want to make someone be in a queue, I click on their name and I move them over. All right, likewise, if someone doesn't need to be in a queue any longer, I can click this way and move them back. So once I have people in my call center member list here, I click back here at the top to go to queues. If I click on a queue name, you see I'm actually logged in, but I'm marked away. But I have an option here to click agents, right? So I can click and drag people over to be in my queues or out if I want them to be. Once you have assigned agents, you can choose to have those agents be managers if you're so inclined. Now, for your staff members who are part of the queues, right, they can log in through the website, right? Select Acd Cues. Here, let me start this off as if it was the beginning of my day here, right? So then they would click on Begin Session. Now, on a standard queue, they're started off in away mode, especially the first time you log in, or they've had a change to their devices, right? Click on the little phone icon up here at the top. They need to select the VoIP phone they're going to use. Right, click on the little phone icon, and then across from status, they'd click on that and they'd mark themselves ready. And now I'm turned green, so that means, hey, I'm ready to take calls. Right, now this bar across the top, this is my own personal status, right? So how many total calls, how many have I missed, how many I actually handled, right? My session time, etc. Here, this is for the queue, right? So I can see how many agents are logged in, what our average handle time is, or average wait time, right? How many people are actually waiting to speak to somebody. What is that? Missed calls, basically we didn't pick up, and then abandoned calls, right? People who hung up before we could answer. Now, one thing to note, the missed calls up here, oops, right, will not always match the missed, made and missed icons here, right? This make and missed is for the agent. So an agent can miss a call several times, right? It's offered to them several times, but the queue would only count that as one missed call because, again, a call can be offered multiple times to a staff member. The pro queues, they also have a performance icon here, so you can compare agents to each other. And the pro queues also have the ability for managers to be able to eavesdrop on a call, whisper to the staff member, or barge in. We do have a demo on our YouTube channel, right? Acd Cues Pro demo, so you can see some of that. Unfortunately, accounts can only, for demonstration purposes, it's unfortunate, accounts can only have either a pro queue or standard queues. So that's why I can only show the one. Dynamic caller ID, this is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to create rules to adjust your outbound caller ID for your VoIP phone users. So we'll click this first one here, right? I called this one 408 because I'm saying whenever my staff members call a 408 area code phone number, I want them to have this caller ID show up on their VoIP phones, right? It's automatic. This other one here, a little bit more work in that I created a feature code. So my staff members, when they dial, they have to remember to pick up their phone, hit *550. Then they enter the phone number they're reaching, right? They're calling out to. That combination, they will change their outbound caller ID to this 323 phone number. Right, and then click on Save Changes. The phone numbers you can select from this pull down, right? These are phone numbers on your account. Monitor is also a plan-specific feature. This allows you to see the status of your staff members. So for the soft phone directory, right, that only shows the status of other soft phones. The monitor shows their complete status. So if Don here was on a call, it wouldn't matter what device he's using, it would show up that he's on a call, so I would know not to call him. Right? You can also go by devices. Right? I have who's available, who's busy, as well as all. This would show you your active inbound calls. Now this only updates once you're in the monitor, right? So if people are already on a call, they wouldn't show up here. And then parked calls, who's basically shows who's been parked and then their parking spot number. The recording manager, this actually opens a new tab, takes you to recordings.virtualpbx.com. That uses your dash login to log into, and that's where you would view your call recordings. I'm going to skip right down here to webhooks. Webhooks is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to create rules to link your Dash account to other software, like Zapier, for example, or I think AutoCode and IFFT are other examples that we have. We do have a webinar on our YouTube channel for introduction to Zapier. So that gives you some ideas how to use webhooks as well. If you're interested in webhooks, you actually need to talk to our sales team. They have some more information on that. You can also go to developer.virtualpbx.com. You can see samples of what we have done in terms of code to link Dash to other software. And then lastly, we have the user portal. Every user on your account has their own user portal. As an admin, you're not able to access their individual user portals. Oops, clicked on the wrong thing. Or did I? No, I didn't. So user portals, voicemail tab, right? I can see my voicemails. Now, if you have delete after notification set up on the voicemail box, nothing would show up here, right? But as a user, since I don't have that, right, I can listen to it. I can download it, right? I can mark it for deletion, right? And now it's not there for me. Call history, I would just see my call history. I can adjust the dates, right? This is my own personal call history, nothing account-wide. Faxes would only work if I had a fax box. The contact list tab, this shows everything on the Dash account, right? So other users, groups, queues, etc. As a standard users can't edit this, right? Even as an admin, I can't edit this display that much, but I can add users, right? And then they would eventually show up here. Conference tab. Over here to the right, it's kind of cut off, but this is where your staff members can update their own moderator pin and participant pin numbers. Do they want people to show up muted or deafened? And then are you playing entry and exit tones? Up here at the top, when you're in a conference, right, the little plus sign, you can invite other Dash users to your conference. You can lock a conference so other people can't join. You can mute everybody, unmute everybody. You can end the conference. Also, when you're in a conference, you can mute a specific participant, for example, as well as kick them out. Then we have the settings and devices tab. So this is where your users would enable call forwarding, and they just put +1 area code and phone number, and they would click on save, as well as see the status of their devices. All right, and that is everything. Sorry that this ran a little long. That's mostly because I had to go back to the users because I didn't do that in order. So I apologize for that. We will be back next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific. This is recorded, so you can always come back and watch this. If you actually go to last week's training, you would see basically the same information. And beyond that, I thank you for your time today and have a wonderful day.